Good morning and welcome to the daily chapter reading of It's Your Loss. Living with grief is hard. We hope this book will help. Help yourself. One of the only things that both Robin and I did with our loss eventually is get therapy, but true to forms in very different ways. Robin in short, intense bursts, and me in planned out, years long journey that's ongoing today. I say today because whenever you're reading this, I'll still be in therapy, so valuable have I found it. I've been in weekly sessions for years, and it's no exaggeration to say that it saved my life and changed it powerfully for the better. But as an undersharer who thinks they needed to keep everything inside, I remember how daunting starting that journey was and inviting somebody to join my loss club. Like a lot of people, I started my own therapy because I was in crisis, which is probably not the best time to do it. You don't wait until the fire reaches the attic before you call the fire brigade, do you? But finding a therapist is still shrouded in so much mystery for so many of us. So, in a Forbidden to help demystify and make it less scary, I'm going to talk a bit about what it's like as an introvert to have given myself this very valuable thing. I'm not going to talk group therapy because, sharing in public is fundamentally not my thing. So, for the record, this bit's about one on one talking therapy, and if that sounds daunting as heck to my introvert crew, don't worry, I got you. I know firsthand how frightening it can be. This is designed to be less a shove into a therapist chair and more a helping hand if and when you're ready to sit down yourself. I recognize that there's privilege in having the means and headspace to find help, and in the access to practitioners who can understand your lived experience. So these are my own feelings on it laid out for you to use however you see fit and however it matches your needs. If you're whistling along, keeping busy, and struggling to look at an emotion or trauma you know you need to look at, having a therapist can give you time in the week where you have to focus on yourself. It provides a structure to work through that overwhelming pile of emotions. In your therapist, you get an impartial person who's in your corner, but gives a shit, and who'll hold you accountable when you go off at the deep end. And for all my people pleasers out there, because it's a business relationship in which the therapist is a professional who's being paid, there's no need to feel like you're burdening that person. For somebody who feels like they have to deal with everything on their own, that can be invaluable. But as with all rewarding things, there's a bit of work to be done before you get to the good stuff. Lots of this is universal, whether you're intro or extrovert, so feel free to share with anybody who needs it. I know I have. First, you have to find your therapist. And because there isn't a Tinder for therapists yet, you're going to have to work at it just a little. It may be tempting to get in touch with your nearest therapy-loving friend and ask to see their one, but here's why I'm going to encourage you not to do that. Number one, there is power in finding your own practitioner. Deciding you want to open up your loss community to include somebody else, doing the research and making first contact is all part of a journey towards taking your own mental health seriously. Number two, a therapist relationship is kind of sacred, especially to people who struggle with sharing. There's a space in the world where they can freely talk, that's all for them, that they might have cultivated over years of hard work. So asking to see their therapist can be a bit like asking if you can step into their birthing pool. A bit invasive and not always appropriate. Finding that therapist can feel like minefield, right? I get it. But sifting through it all and finding the right person, although a bit trial and error, can be one of the most rewarding parts of the system. So, if phones scare you, they scare me. To the internet with you. Lots of countries have governing body for therapists with websites designed to help you find the right one for you. In the UK, we have the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy, BACP, where you can go and browse therapists by what they do and how they do it. I used this as a first step, writing to 10 different practitioners. Of those 10, around 5 wrote back, I spoke with 2, and then chose the one who didn't make me want to vomit into my own shoes. Take your time with your search. Google what the different approaches mean. Depending on your situation, you'll benefit from different kinds of therapy. Lots of therapists offer different ways of working, so it can be really helpful to find out how they apply their knowledge. But it's down to you. Pick the person you feel connected to, because your relationship with that person is going to be deeply, deeply personal. I'm talking about private therapy, which I've been privileged enough to prioritize in my own life and finances, but there are places you can go to get therapy for free. Check out our resource pages at the end of the book for more information. I think there's been a general myth about therapy that you sit in an expensive leather chair for an hour a week and it'll immediately be a huge relief and you'll just start to feel better. That's how I used to think of it, but if you're like me and you've been suppressing a lot of stuff for a lot of years, it's probably the opposite. Therapy can be a slog, and it's supposed to be challenging and uncomfortable because that's how change happens. You might be miserable sometimes, you might wonder why you started, you might want to quit. If you're like me, you might spend a lot of time in a staring at the wall state where nobody's allowed to talk to you, fun. But then slowly you'll likely to re-examine things and how they work. You'll change things, you'll almost certainly question your old ways of working and to start to build new ones. Habits may change and damaging belief systems will hopefully be left behind. You might learn how to communicate better with other people and with yourself. Maybe create mental space to work out who you are and what you need in the world. Maybe all of the above, maybe none of it, maybe more. Your journey will be 100% your own, but every step, every session and every moment spent outside of your comfort zone, learning how to let your inside world sometimes out, is a push in a healthier direction. In my world, therapy is a gift and an endurance exercise, and when I'm Prime Minister, we'll be at it. If you've just gone through a loss, even reading this chapter might feel overwhelming, but I'm here to tell you there is no pressure to do anything until you're ready. You're in the driving seat here. Those around you might have support to offer and opinions on what you could or should be doing, but unless you want to take the next step, don't. Because wanting to feel better is a bit of a watershed moment in any loss, where you look down at your cornflake-strewn, week-old sweatshirt and think, no more. The truth is that you have to believe you can feel better after a loss, whether you went through it by yourself, with a partner, or with the rest of the world as part of a global pandemic. And though your loved ones or your therapist will be there to pick you up when you fall over, it's you who's going to get yourself through this, because there's an as yet untapped power in you that you could find as part of this whole ordeal, and oh man, when you find it, you're going to wonder how you ever missed it lurking in there. So, take your time, do a little bit of what this chapter recommends, do a lot. Do some today and then none for a month. It's all forward motion. And by the time you realize you're taking steps in the right direction, this bit you're in now will be a thing of the past.